Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at how a global beauty brand can cater to like all sorts of different needs around the
The
world.
global beauty brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for this deep dive, we're going to be using the Harvard Business School case study,
Okay.
the universalization of L'Oreal. It's about how L'Oreal, which, is a French company, managed to do so well in places like Brazil and India.
Yeah, I mean, L'Oreal, it's like it screams French elegance, right?
Yeah.
So how did they manage to make it work in these totally different markets?
That's what's so fascinating. It's a story of how they adapted to local tastes, but still kept that strong global brand identity.
Yeah, and they call this approach universalization.
That's right.
But like before we get into like what that actually means, can you give us a bit of background on L'Oreal itself? Like how did they become such a big name in beauty?
Well, there are a few key things, I think. They're super committed to innovation. Like, you don't see that level of R&D spending in a lot of companies, especially in the beauty industry. They really want to understand how beauty works, like the science behind it,
Hmm.
but also how what people want is changing.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're not just about the super high-end luxury stuff either.
That's what I was thinking. They seem to be good at making like premium beauty, but making it affordable, you know?
Yeah, exactly. They kind of pioneered this idea of masstige.
Prestige.
It's about making products that feel really premium, good ingredients and all that,
Right.
but at a price that normal people can actually afford.
Okay, I get it.
This worked really well for them in places like China and India, where you have a growing middle class that want those little luxuries but can't always, drop a ton of money.
Yeah. That's such a smart strategy,
Mm.
especially when you think about how much those markets are growing.
It is.
It's huge. And another thing I've noticed is that L'Oreal, they don't just like focus on one type of product, right?
Totally. They do hair care,
Hmm.
skin care,
Right. Yeah.
makeup, fragrances, the whole shebang.
Yeah. And they're in salons, department stores,
Hmm.
drugstores. It seems like they're everywhere.
Exactly. They use all different ways to reach people,
Oh,
lets them be super flexible and really adapt to whatever's happening in different markets.
and it seems like their commitment to diversity goes beyond just products, right?
Oh, definitely.
I was reading that they've been recognized for having a really diverse workforce.
Yeah. L'Oreal really believes that the company should look like the people it sells to.
Hmm.
They have employees from like 113 different nationalities.
Wow.
It's one of the things they're most proud of.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, so we've established that L'Oreal has this global vision,
They do.
a diverse portfolio of brands,
Absolutely.
and they want to make beauty accessible to everyone,
Yeah.
but they didn't just become a global giant overnight, right?
No, no, they didn't.
What were some of the like early challenges they faced when they started expanding?
Well, at first, they kind of just did what a lot of companies do.
Yeah.
They took the products that were already selling well in places like France, Mm-hmm.
And they tried to sell them in new markets,
Mm-hmm.
as is.
Gotcha.
Didn't really work.
Uh,
What people like in France isn't necessarily what people want in Brazil or India,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, different cultures, different ideas about beauty,
for sure.
different hair types, skin types, the whole thing.
It's a lot more complicated than just like shipping your products across the world.
Right. So how did they move beyond just exporting? Like, was it a big sudden change or was it more of a gradual thing?
More gradual, they started to adapt their existing brands for the local markets.
Okay.
So like they tweaked their L'Oreal Paris line for China because, skin tones are different there.
Makes sense.
Preferences are different.
Yeah.
But the real turning point was when they came up with this universalization strategy.
All right, now things are getting interesting. So tell me, what does universalization actually mean for L'Oreal? So it's basically about developing totally new brands and products that are specifically made for the needs of local markets.
So not just changing the packaging or tweaking a formula a little.
Right. No, no, it's much deeper than that. It's
Oh.
about really diving deep into like how people behave, their cultural nuances, even using local resources to make products that really feel like they're made for that specific region.
So they're not just exporting a Parisian idea of beauty.
Yo.
They're actually embracing all these different ideas of beauty.
Okay.
But how do they do that globally and
Oh.
still make sure the brand feels consistent? You know?
That's the cool part. It's this balance of Having a global vision, but also empowering local teams.
Okay.
So they have these international brand managers. A lot of them are based in places like Paris and New York.
Yeah.
Their job is to make sure that each brand stays true to its core identity, its values.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they give the local teams a lot of freedom to adapt and innovate.
So it's like global guidelines, but local execution.
Yeah, something like that.
Can you give us like a concrete example of how this universalization thing actually works?
Yeah, absolutely. So a good example is their Total Repair 5 hair care line. This actually started in Brazil.
Brazil?
Yeah, Brazil's a country with a super diverse population,
Right.
and they have a lot of different hair needs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the L'Oreal team in Brazil, they found 5 common hair problems that a lot of Brazilian women were having,
Oh, interesting.
and they developed one product that could address all 5 of them.
Oh, yeah. I remember those ads. It was like 5 problems, 1 solution.
Exactly. That was a really smart marketing campaign.
And did they also use like local spokespeople to really connect with the Brazilian market?
Yep. They used Brazilian actresses and models in their advertising,
Yeah.
which really made the brand feel authentic, you know?
Yeah, like it was made for them.
Yeah, and the formula was made to work well with the types of hair that are common in Brazil.
Smart.
So Total Repair 5, it was a big hit in Brazil.
Okay.
But the question is, was it just a local success or could they take it global?
Yeah, good question.
And that's the cool thing about universalization, the main concept, the 5 problems, 1 solution. That was something that could appeal to people anywhere.
Okay.
But how they executed it, that's what they changed for each region.
So like different messaging, different spokespeople.
Exactly. They kept the heart of the product the same,
Mm-hmm.
but changed the packaging, the marketing to fit local tastes.
So smart. This makes me think, how did L'Oreal take this universalization thing to a place like India?
Yeah. India's a whole other story. It's such a diverse and complex market.
Yeah.
And what L'Oreal did there really shows how nuanced this universalization strategy can be.
Well, let's dive into that then.
Yeah.
Okay, India. So I know beauty is like a really big deal in Indian culture,
Oh, yeah.
and hair care especially.
Huge. It's fascinating,
What
really.
is it about hair in India?
Well, it has this long history,
Yeah.
all these beauty rituals, and they really believe in natural ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
Hair is seen as the symbol of beauty, especially for women.
Yeah.
And there's this real desire for thick, long, healthy hair.
So how did L'Oreal handle that? Did they just try to sell their existing products, or did they have to change things up?
Oh, they definitely realized that a one-size-fits-all approach just wouldn't cut it in India.
Yeah.
They had to make their products and their prices, fit with what people there wanted and what they could afford.
Makes sense.
Like, they launched their Color Naturals hair color line way cheaper in India than they did in the West.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Makes it accessible to more people. But didn't they also have to deal with, like, India's retail situation?
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other
They're
challenge.
pretty unique, right?
It is. You have modern retail that's growing,
Mhm.
but then a huge chunk of sales still happen through the traditional channels,
Like what?
like the little independent stores, local shops, that kind of thing.
So how did L'Oreal handle that? Did they, like, try to build relationships with those local shopkeepers?
That was key. Yeah. They knew they had to get their products on the shelves in those small stores.
Right.
And that meant building trust with the owners, really understanding their needs.
It's different from dealing with, like, a big chain store, right?
Totally different.
Did they face any, like, pushback from those traditional retailers?
I mean, yeah, at first some of them were hesitant. They saw L'Oreal as this Western company.
Yeah.
L'Oreal had to prove that they were serious about understanding the Indian market.
Okay, so they really had to put in the work.
Yeah, they did. All right, so let's get back to Total Repair 5.
Yes. I want to know how they took this product that was made for Brazil and made it work in India.
So first they did a ton of research, talking to Indian consumers,
Right.
figuring out what their hair care needs were, what they were worried about.
So what do they find out?
Well, Indian women, they're known for having really thick hair,
That's true.
but they're also really worried about hair loss and damage.
That makes sense. With all the pollution, the stress, the styling.
Yeah, all of that.
So did they just tweak the Total Repair 5 formula, or was it more than that?
It was a lot more. They realized that in India, the brand name was super important. So instead of launching Total Repair 5 under LSEV, which nobody in India really knew,
Yeah.
they decided to put it under the L'Oreal Paris brand.
Well, that's smart. People already knew and trusted L'Oreal Paris.
Exactly.
What other changes did they make?
They simplified the packaging,
Okay.
made the colors and images more, what Indian consumers would like.
Yeah.
And the price, of course, had to be right.
Had to be affordable.
Yeah.
So they got the brand right, the packaging right, the price right.
Mm-hmm.
How did they market it? How did they get the word out?
Okay, so they knew they needed a spokesperson, someone who really represented Indian beauty,
Yeah.
someone people would listen to.
Somewhat iconic.
They went with Aishwarya Rai.
Wow. The Bollywood actress?
Yep, and former Miss World.
She's perfect. She's beautiful. She's glamorous.
She is. And their advertising focused on how Total Repair 5 could help with hair fall and damage.
The things they learned from their research.
Exactly. And they showed off Aishwarya's amazing hair,
Yeah, like if it works for her, it'll work for anyone. So they had the brand, the price, the packaging, the spokesperson.
All of it.
Did it work?
It was a huge hit. Within 2 years, Total Repair 5 was like the top dog in the Indian bottled shampoo market.
No way. That's incredible.
It really is. They took a product from Brazil and made it a star in India.
That's the power of understanding the local market. But wait, they didn't stop there, right? L'Oreal went after the men's market too, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They saw how much potential there was in men's grooming in India.
Tell me about it. That market is exploding everywhere.
It is. So they created Garnier Men.
Garnier Men.
Yeah, another great example of universalization.
Okay, I'm really interested in this. What did L'Oreal learn about Indian men and their grooming habits?
They found a couple of really interesting things.
Okay.
Indian men were super concerned about oil control.
Makes sense. It's a hot climate.
And fairness.
Fairness.
Yeah, like skin tone.
Oh, interesting. So how did they turn that into products and marketing?
So they created a bunch of products that were specifically about those things.
Okay.
Oil control face washes, fairness moisturizers, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they realized that to connect with Indian men, they had to be funny.
Humor.
Yeah, and relatable.
So how did they do that?
Their ads were really funny. They made fun of the things men worry about, like being oily or not having fair skin.
I like that.
And their taglines were catchy,
Like what?
fuel your skin with natural energy.
I've heard that one.
Yeah, and 2 tones fairer performance you can measure. Appealing to that desire for results.
Yeah, they want to see a difference.
Exactly. And they got John Abraham to be their brand ambassador.
Oh, wow. The Bollywood actor.
Yeah. He's got that rugged, handsome look.
He's super popular.
He is. He was a perfect image for the brand,
So they found the right spokesperson, addressed the specific concerns of Indian men.
Mm-hmm.
Was Garnier Men a success?
Oh, yeah. It took off like crazy. They became the #2 men's skincare brand in India.
Wow. Who was number one?
Some local competitor that was way cheaper.
Still, that's amazing.
It is. Shows you the power of really understanding the local market.
It does. Did they take Garnier Men to other markets?
They did. They launched it in some other Asian markets, and it did really well. Just a few tweaks here and there.
So universalization works, but what about the U.S.?
They haven't launched Garnier Men in the U.S. yet.
Really?
Yeah, they think American men might be looking for different things,
So even with a strategy that works as well as this one,
Yeah,
you still have to constantly be checking and adapting.
you do. Okay, I want to talk about one more thing about L'Oreal's strategy in India.
Okay.
Sachet.
Sachets, like the little packets.
Yeah,
Let's deal with those.
those were a game changer for L'Oreal.
Really?
They realized that a lot of Indian consumers just couldn't afford a full bottle of shampoo or whatever,
Okay.
especially in rural areas or if they didn't have a lot of money.
So sachets were a way to make the products more affordable.
Exactly.
So sachets were a way to make the products more affordable.
Exactly.
But did people like them? I mean, weren't people used to buying the regular bottles?
I mean, yeah, at first, some people were a little skeptical.
Yeah.
They thought maybe the sachets meant the product wasn't as good,
Right.
or they thought it would be a pain to use,
Yeah.
But L'Oreal, they were smart about it.
What did they do?
They marketed the sachets as a way to try before you buy.
Oh, I like that.
So you could experience the product without spending a lot of money on a big bottle.
Yeah, like a little sample.
Exactly.
Did it work?
Oh, yeah, it totally worked.
Nice.
Especially because the price was so low.
Yeah, that makes sense. India's pretty price-sensitive market, right?
Very much so. Plus, sachets were just practical for a lot of people.
How so?
Well, a lot of Indians travel a lot.
Okay.
Or they live in small spaces. Maybe they don't have room for a bunch of big bottles.
So sachets were perfect.
They were. It was like L'Oreal turned this potential problem into a huge advantage.
It's really smart.
Yeah.
Did it change the market at all? Like, did other brands start doing sachets too?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Sachets became super popular for like all sorts of beauty products in India.
Wow.
It completely changed how people, especially those who didn't have a lot of money, could buy and try out beauty products.
So L'Oreal basically created a whole new way to sell beauty products.
Yeah, pretty much. And of course, once other companies saw how well it was working,
Yeah,
they jumped on board too.
makes sense.
So now you have more competition, lower prices. It's good for everyone.
That's awesome. Okay, so zooming out a little, this whole universalization thing, it seems like such a good way to win in new markets.
It really is.
Why don't more companies do it?
I mean, it's not easy, you know? It takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
You have to really commit to understanding these different markets and be willing to change things up.
Yeah, a lot of companies just want to sell the same stuff everywhere, right?
Yeah, they think it's easier.
But they're probably missing out.
Oh, for sure. So it's more than just like translating some packaging or changing the color of a product. It's a whole different way of thinking.
You have to accept that what works in one place might not work somewhere else.
Exactly.
Are there any downsides to this model? Like anything companies should watch out for?
Yeah, the biggest risk is probably that you water down your brand.
What do you mean?
If you change your products too much to try to please everyone,
Yeah,
you might lose what makes your brand special in the first place.
that's true. So you need to be careful.
Yeah, you need to be flexible, but you can't forget who you are as a brand.
That's like a balancing act.
It is. L'Oreal, they've been really good at it so far.
Yeah, they seem to have figured it out.
Uh,
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive,
hmm
what's like the one big thing you want our listener to remember about L'Oreal's journey?
I think the biggest takeaway is that to succeed globally these days, you need more than just a good product.
You need more.
Yeah, you got to understand the culture, be willing to adapt, and you got to genuinely want to serve these different customers.
Yeah. Not just try to sell them whatever you're already making.
Exactly. L'Oreal's universalization strategy, it shows you that it's okay to embrace those differences, you know?
Yeah.
It's not about making everyone the same. It's about making your products work for everyone.
I love that. Well, this has been super insightful. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.